of an insightful journey, and we are excited to guide you every step of the way. So before starting, I will just give you some technical details for this webinar. So the session will be recorded, and the recording will be available for you upon request. Your microphone and your camera will be switched off during the whole webinar. You can submit your question during the whole session, and we will reserve 10-15 minutes by the end of the technical session to tackle those questions. And please note that raise hand and chat function should be disabled during the session, so please do not use them. To start, I will introduce our expert of today, Cristina Murcia Garcia. She is the Technical Service Manager of Kemin Nutrisurance EMEA. Cristina holds a PhD in chemistry with a focus on redox reaction from the University of Bonn in Germany. She is an expert in managing oxidation and rendering and pet food products, providing specific solution to enhance the safety and the shelf life of raw material and finished product. I will just briefly introduce myself too. I am Rossana Gastaldo, and I am the product manager for antioxidant and food safety platform in Kemin Nutrisurance EMEA. In today's session, we will begin with a brief introduction about Kemin and our corporate overview, the latest market trends in the pet food industries, highlighting the importance of antioxidant in pet food. From there, we will dive into the technical details and insights on lipid and fatty acids, the mechanism and consequences of lipid oxidation, and the chemistry behind. Finally, we will discuss about analytical methods and for measuring oxidation. To wrap up all of that, we will summarize the key takeaways for you, and we will open the floor for a Q&A session. So now let's dive in and start this exciting journey together. So Kemin is a family-owned company founded in 1961, and it is operating across many different sectors, such as human and animal health and nutrition, but also food, crop technologies, aquaculture, and textile. With more than 35 years of experience, Kemin Nutrisurance is the business unit specialized and dedicated for pet food and rendering technologies. With a presence in 10 different countries worldwide, we are able to provide reliable solution for oxidation control, palatability, food safety, health and nutrition. And today we will be focused on the oxidation control. To start over our presentation, let me just give you a bit of a context about pet food industry overview and some market trends, be focused on EMEA. So this frame provides you some insights or essential insights for pet food supply chain stakeholders. So considering the global market, we can consider the EMEA 1 part being 28% in average, with approximately 38.6 billion euro expected to grow of 5% by 2029, and 8.7 billion metric ton expected to grow by 1% by 2029. So as you see from this number, volumetric growth is flat compared to the value one, and this can be attributed to the product premiumization and prices increase. Confirming that in this matrix volume CAGR, you can see that the premium products are in the fast-growing quadrant, while economy and mid-price are instead suffering more. This figure perfectly fits with the correct market trends shaping the pet food industries. First of all, everyone knows clean label. Consumers are increasingly seeking for simple and natural ingredient in their pet food product, and this is similar as human food trends. They are looking for minimally processed product, for example, with some fresh and raw ingredient inside. And of course, traceability and transparency are really essential as consumers want to know what is present in their product and where the ingredients come from. As mentioned before, and as we saw in the market segmentation data, premiumization and humanization it's a trend which is still growing. Premium products, in fact, are significantly increasing because pet owners are seeking for high quality product, human grade option with some functionality, so some specific nutritional value and function inside the pet food product. And these trends includes a trickle-down effect from the human food to the pet food, with pet owner thinking what is good for me can be good also for my pet. And last but not least, sustainability. Sustainability is becoming a prior topic globally, and EMEA consumers are also focused on eco-friendly and sustainable practices also in this sector. So this is why even within the pet food market, it's important to look for sustainable packaging, novel ingredient that can be also byproduct from some specific production, which can have a smaller environmental impact. This being said, to summarize, in the next slide, we can see three key reasons why it's important to apply antioxidant in pet food. The first one is the quality, to maintain a high quality of the finished product, but also of the raw material, because it's important to prevent the quality from the first stages of the supply chain. And this is crucial also to maintain a brand loyalty. Food safety, to maintain the safety of the product and the raw material, because oxidation can cause yes, of flavor and the degradation in terms of quality of the product, but can also cause the formation of unsafe compound for our pet. And sustainability. Somehow, applying antioxidant can help and can improve and optimize the process. But in the first reason is that it extends the shelf life, and this is really relevant for the food waste reduction. So now I leave the floor to Cristina, my colleague, our expert, who will lead us through this webinar, and we'll start with the technical session. Please, Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much, Rosanna, for this great introduction to this technical webinar. I see we are roughly more than 100 people online, so I'm overwhelmed, and thank you so much for attending. And now I will switch off my camera for the rest of the presentation and the technology, so that the slides and the animations are going on time, and we will start with the webinar. Okay, so every step of the way is really important, because to produce pet food we have different stages where some factors that need to be controlled. For example, at the very beginning at slaughterhouses and during transportation to the rendering plant, we have the highest risk of microbial growth and enzymatic reactions. Once the raw materials are processed at the rendering plants, we need to guarantee shelf life and pathogen protection, so that the fats and the meals arrive in adequate conditions to the pet food manufacturing plants. Here, the pet food producer, other materials will be added for the corresponding recipe towards health and nutrition perspective, and also flavor enhancers to have a nice flavor for our pets. So all the steps are very important, but from the beginning until the end, and especially because pet food has really longer shelf lives, up to 24 months, there is a natural process that is ongoing from the beginning, and this is oxidation. So as soon as we protect, the better is to avoid any quality issues on the final pet food. This first webinar will be dedicated to the basics so that we are all at the same page when understanding the next webinar that will be much more advanced. So, and we need to be sure that everyone has the basic knowledge, and mainly, and unfortunately, is chemical knowledge. So we don't need to memorize all the things that we will see today. Most important thing is to get familiar with the concepts, and then be able to understand issues that may have the different raw materials, and how can we prevent oxidation and have at the end a much better product. So let's start from lipids. They are long chains of carbon and hydrogen with lipophilic character, and they have also polar head groups, usually containing oxygen, nitrogen, or sulfur. They are very important in animal nutrition because they are main sources of energy. They are good carriers of essential substances like liposoluble vitamins, but also carriers of flavors. And they are the main constituents of the cell membranes in our body, in the body of the pets. In general, the lipids which are solid at room temperature are called fat, and lipids which are liquid at room temperature are called oils. But for example, we have coconut oil, which is solid at room temperature, and we don't call it fat, but oil. So there is just a general speaking that when we speak, we use fats for solid temperature lipids. So the building blocks of lipids are the fatty acids, and in general, they are in the form of the triglyceride and are formed by the glycerol molecule and 3 fatty acids that could be the same and could be different. And these are the building blocks of lipids, and lipids are forming our ingredient and are present in the fats and also in the meals. But we need to know which type of fatty acid do we have and what is necessary to understand in their classification. So mainly we have saturated fatty acids, which do not contain any double bond between 2 carbon atoms. So each corner here is a carbon atom. So in here we see always simple lines, and here we see a double line. So in this case, this is a saturated fatty acid, no insaturations, no double bond. Unsaturated fatty acids contains 1 or more double bonds between 2 carbon atoms. So in the structure, we see here this double line. And also really important is to understand the nomenclature of the fatty acids and to understand what are the meanings of these numbers. Because in the specifications of our raw materials, especially in fats or oils, you will have a column full with this number like 18.1, 18.2, 15.2, 15.0, 16.0. So what does this mean? So the first number in green, the 18, tell us just how many carbon atoms are present in our fatty acid. So if we start to count here all the corners, we will reach 18. The second number after the column, after the 2 points, indicates us how many double bonds this fatty acid have. So how many unsaturations. In this case, we show only 1 double line, is 1. And we have the omega classification. It just tells us the number of the carbon atom closest to the double bond if we start to count from the back of the fatty acid. In general, for us, for the stability, we don't care if it is omega-3, omega-6, or omega-9. We care how high is the number after the column. So how many double bonds in saturation do we have in our fatty acids? So here we have the example of before, the oleic acid, 18 carbon atoms, 1 double bond, and this double bond is in the carbon atom number 9, omega-9. So if we start to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, omega-9. Now we have here a polyunsaturated fatty acid with 2 double bonds. How can we name it? I can tell you we have the same number of carbon atoms, 18, and in this case, we have 2 double bonds, so this will be a 18-2. 2 double bonds. And in this case, the first double bond is situated in the carbon atom number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, omega 6. And the last example that we have is the same length, 18 carbon atoms, and we have 3 different double bonds. So we have linolenic acid in this case, which is an 18-3, omega 3, because the first double bond starts in position number 3. 1, 2, 3. Why is important this? Why I'm telling you this? Because the higher this number is after the colon, the higher will be the oxidation risk of the fats, oil, or material containing fats and oils. Let's see some example of different fatty acid composition in different raw materials. So we have here different fats and oils. In red is marked the amount of the corresponding fat with saturated fat. Saturated fats are the ones without any double bond. So the number after the 2 points will be 0. So this is more resistant to oxidation. And we also will focus on this blue-green color, which indicates the amount of polyunsaturated fats with more than 1 double bond. So if we go to the bottom of the table, we observe here coconut oil with 75% in red saturated fat and just 2% of polyunsaturated fat. So if we compare coconut oil with, for example, sunflower oil, we see sunflower contains just 11% of saturated fat, and mostly, almost 70% of the composition is polyunsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fatty acids. This means that sunflower oil is much more sensitive to oxidation than any other of the materials here below in the table. If we go to see animal fats, we have here also beef fat, 51% saturated fat, 4 polyunsaturated, and if we compare this with the chicken fat, we see, because of the higher amount of polyunsaturated fat, that chicken fat is more sensitive to oxidation than beef fat. Let's go more specifically here. This is just an example of the fatty acid composition. So here in the first column, you see the numbers that we need to interpret, that we need to know what is the meaning of this number, because this will be appearing in the specifications of different raw materials, such as palm oil, beef tallow, lamb meal, pork fat, poultry fat, soybean oil, sunflower, flax oil, fish oil. So here, at the left part of the table, we have the palm oil, which is formed by 45% of this 16-0. I think this is palmitic oil. So we don't have any unsaturation, no double bonds, and 40% of the 18-1 the oleic acid with 1 double bond. So if we compare the composition of palm oil, for example, with the composition of flax oil or linseed oil, is the same, we see that in linseed oil, we have more of the half of the composition of linolenic acid with 3 double bonds. So linseed oil, flaxseed oil, is much more sensitive to oxidation than palm oil. And here the winner in the oxidation risk is fish oil, because it contains more or less 20-21% of 3 different fatty acids that have 5 insaturations, 5 double bonds, especially EPA and DHA, that are the ones why fish oil wants to be included in pet food recipes. But now you may be wondering, yes, Christina, okay, but it's really making such a big difference to have 1 double bond more or less? But I can tell you that indeed, yes. In this graphic, we can see the lipid oxidation propagation rate, like the speed of the oxidation of different fatty acid, oleic, linoleic, and EPA and DHA present in the fish oil. You see here is the technical description with the 18-1 and 18-2. So if we compare the oxidation rate of oleic acid with the one of the linoleic acid, You see, there is just one double bond more. From 1, we pass to 2. It's not that this oxidize 2 times faster. No, it's oxidized 62 times faster. So it's exponentially increasing the speed of the oxidation, the number of unsaturations. So if we compare with oleic acid, EPA and DHA, we see that they oxidize roughly 300 times faster than oleic acid. So yes, unsaturations have a very important impact into the speed of oxidation, fats, oil, and at the end, final pet food containing these ingredients. Let's go now to lipid oxidations and consequences and this block. So we started explaining the 3 types of lipid oxidation, of fat oxidation. One could be the oxidation due to the effect of the light, especially the ultraviolet light. It's called photooxidation. And here some molecules will be excited and will react with atmospheric oxygen, creating the so-called single-length oxygen, which is really reactive, and we start to react with the lipid molecules, forming free radicals and starting the chain reactions of lipid degradation. We can have oxidation due to enzymatic reactions. This usually occurs when moisture is high or when we have microbial growth. Then we can have the activation of enzymes such as lipase that will or lipoxygenase that can also react with atmospheric oxygen and activate the degradation of lipid molecules forming hydroperoxides. And also we have the autooxidation, which is the natural process for what all fats and oils will oxidize. And even ourselves, we are getting old, we are in a continuously oxidation process due to the presence of free radicals. There are other factors that can accelerate also oxidation, like the temperature. The higher the temperature, the faster will be all of these reactions. The presence of metallic ions, they are pro-oxidative, especially iron and copper. This will also accelerate the formation of different radicals that will react with the lipid molecules and start chain reactions. And when lipids oxidize, this is the result of different radical reactions, but these radicals will attack other ingredients present in our products, and this will co-oxidate liposoluble vitamins. Also, we will start to have protein oxidation, and we will see the degradation of pigments that are present in our ingredients or in our final products. So we will concentrate today in the autooxidation process, which is the one in which fatty acids turn rancid by reaction with atmospheric oxygen, and is divided into 2 phases. And is the one that we can measure much more easily in all quality laboratories. And we have 2 main markers. One are the peroxides, which are the indicators for the formation of primary oxidation products. And the other marker are aldehydes, ketones, alcohols, or other hydrocarbons that come from the decomposition of the peroxides. From all of these, we have standardized methods, especially measuring aldehydes, and also because aldehydes are volatile compounds that have a typically rancid smell. So from this first block, the takeaway message about the composition of our raw materials and ingredients is to learn about that the degree of unsaturation in our fatty acids will accelerate considerably the oxidation. So the more double bonds, the faster is the oxidation. Here we see the typical graphic for the oxidation speed, and autooxidation is divided in 3 stages. The first one is the initiation, in which we see that the peroxides are increasing slowly. If we don't have at this stage the control provided by antioxidants, the formation of peroxide will increase exponentially. And at some point, peroxides will start to decompose. So the oxidation, no, not the oxidation, sorry. So the level of the peroxides will go down. So what happened if I measure my raw materials on my final product, I measure the peroxides and I have a low level. I have a peroxide of 2.3, really good, no? But 2.3 and I am at the beginning of the oxidation, or is 2.3 and I am at the end of the oxidation? So in general, we suggest to measure a second parameter, a compound coming from the secondary oxidation, a volatile compound. Most of the cases is hexanal because its presence in most of the fat degradations. And if we see we have low peroxide levels but high hexanal levels, so we know that we are at the end of the oxidation and our product is completely oxidized. A very important thing here to point out is that oxidation is an irreversible process. So we cannot go back, and also we cannot stop it. We can just make it slower. So if we get raw materials with high levels of peroxides, we cannot make the peroxides go back. We can just keep the level of peroxide that we have with antioxidant. That's why it's very important to protect as soon as possible and then to keep this low level and this good quality the longest that we can. Just to remind the factors determining the speed of the lipid oxidation, of course, the presence of oxygen, the temperature, the exposure to light, the presence of metallic ions, especially iron and copper, because they have the biggest impact into the acceleration of the oxidation. The humidity, the moisture, because the more moisture, the higher will be the risk for microbial growth and for enzymatic reactions that we know that can also start additional oxidation processes. The unsaturation degree of our materials, okay, do we have more unsaturated or more polyunsaturated and how much? So what we have learned until now to identify the risk in our raw materials and the presence or not of antioxidants. Main consequences of the oxidation are the degradation of essential nutrients like fatty acids, amino acids, proteins, vitamins, pigments, but also, and not to forget, the formation of potential carcinogenic compounds and aroma-active substances. So even if peroxides are not smelling, peroxides are toxic compounds. And hexanal and other volatile compounds, they smell, so we can detect them. But when we smell already, rancidity is too late to have a fresh product, a product with intact nutrients and other ingredients. 3 rules to respect. Well, use always fresh raw materials, decrease the risk factors, protecting as soon as possible and controlling all the steps from the evisceration to the transportation, production and the rendering plant, stabilization with antioxidant and maybe antimicrobial, especially for long transportations, for example, from Europe to Asia, where we know that we cannot control the temperature during shipping, and we could have fluctuation in the temperatures leading to water condensation, and this increase the risk. So we should be sure that we have enough protection here. And as we were speaking, protect as soon as possible, because oxidation is a straightforward forward process, and we cannot go back. So if you thought that was all of chemistry, I need to disappoint you, because we will have now the tough part of chemistry. But again, this is just to show you what is happening in your raw materials and why we measure peroxide, why we measure hexanal, and why we cannot go back during the oxidation. So I will try to do it as not so boring as possible, but again, you don't need to memorize everything, just to get familiar with the concepts. So what is oxidation? Apart from going from to rancidity, in chemistry, we define oxidation when an atom or a molecule loses one or more electron. So you know we represent always the free radicals with a point. A free radical is just a free electron. So in general, to have a bond between two atoms, we need two electrons. And when two electrons meet, they combine and form the bond, this line. So imagine we have here a lipid molecule, a fatty acid molecule. One important thing I forgot, that electrons, they like to be in pairs, so in groups of two. If they have a partner, they are happy. So in the moment, like in this red molecule, we have an unpaired electron. So the molecule gets angry, so gets really reactive. This is a free radical. And will try with all its means to steal one electron to have the pair from another stable molecule. So this is what's happening in lipid oxidation. So when a radical is formed, this will be super reactive and will steal one electron from the lipid molecule. I represent here the electron with the hydrogen atom because this is what's happening in oxidation. Hydrogen atoms will be stolen from the fatty acid molecules, especially because hydrogen is the smallest atom in the periodic table. So to steal one hydrogen will be much more easy than steal a more heavier atom. So oxidation will be a meaning of stealing hydrogen atoms from lipid molecules. So when a lipid molecule loses the hydrogen, this lipid will be containing a free radical, an alone electron, because the other electron, the hydrogen, was taken by the reactive molecule. So now we will see why polyunsaturated fatty acids oxidize faster. Why the difference between one or two double bonds or three double bonds more makes oxidation much faster. And we have learned just right now that oxidation will start by taking a hydrogen atom from a lipid molecule. So let's see how easy it is to take hydrogen atoms from molecules. So chemists, we like to calculate dissociation energies. This means the energy that we need to break this bond, in this case, carbon-hydrogen bond. So in this small molecule, the amount of energy will be 111 kilocalories per mole. If the chain is longer, to steal this hydrogen, this electron, to form the free radical, will be easier because we need less energy. If we have one double bond, one unsaturation, to steal this hydrogen atom in the molecule will be even easier. And if we have here two double bonds in a carbon-hydrogen chain in a fatty acid, when we have polyunsaturation, to steal this hydrogen, this electron from the molecule will be even much easier. We will need much less energy, so it will be a favorable process in the nature. That's why polyunsaturated fatty acids oxidize faster, because it's easier to form free radicals upon them. So imagine this is of course here everything is really simplified to make the understanding easier and not too complicated. So this is a polyunsaturated fatty acid, and we see two double bonds here. By action of light, heat, other molecules, we will have the formation of a free radical, and this free radical will be formed because to take this hydrogen atom at this part of the molecule, as we have seen before, is super easy. So then the reactive molecule or the circumstances in the environment, like the action of the light, will generate a free radical upon our fatty acid molecule. As you know, and we have seen with the red angry molecule, the free radical wants to react. They want to find a partner. And what will he do? It will try to look for a partner. Okay, at which part of the molecule can I steal a further hydrogen atom? For example, from this part. And then, okay, radical is stable, but where the radical stole a hydrogen atom, okay, I am missing my partner. Where is my partner? So the molecule is continuously really reactive. And what do we have in the environment? We have a lot of atmospheric oxygen. So if there is nothing else to attack, the molecule will react with atmospheric oxygen and form a peroxide radical. So still a really reactive molecule. So since we are speaking about polyunsaturated fatty acid, it will be super easy that our fatty acid with the free radical will attack again another fatty acid in the same material to get hydrogen and to continue with the oxidations. Okay, from another fatty acid molecule, the first molecule will steal a hydrogen atom, an electron, and we see the formation of hydroperoxides. This is what we can measure in the laboratory, the peroxide value. The issue here is that after some time, hydroperoxides decompose, and decompose in a way that the fatty acid is broken. The molecule is broken. So if the oxidation is advanced, we cannot take some glue and paste again here. The molecule is broken. We cannot go back. And as a result, we have, in this case, hexanal, a volatile compound, responsible for rancid smell, and the other part of the molecule, which still contains a free radical and will be reacting further with other polyunsaturated fatty acids in an exponential increasing of the oxidation rate. Okay, so what we have seen before graphically with this in this image, we have seen it now chemically. It really happened like this, that at the beginning, because of different chemical reaction, different fatty acids will react with radicals and the concentration of peroxides will increase. But when oxidation is really advanced, hydroperoxides decompose, the molecule is broken, and we will observe the formation of volatile compounds. This is what we can detect in the laboratory. Well, no more chemistry after that, I promise. We get rid of that. But I hope you could appreciate how important it is to understand this, to be able to comprehend the importance of oxidation and that we cannot go back. So unfortunately, we cannot assess oxidation or shelf life with just one analysis. We need to do a multi-analysis approach measuring lipid oxidation parameters, secondary oxidation, antioxidant residuals, because this will help us a lot to understand how is the sensitivity of this material is protected or not, how can we expect the further reactivity of the ingredient. And there are other methods that help us to understand the resistance to oxidation. So we will speak about that in this block of the presentation. As primary oxidation products, usually, and we all know, is the peroxide value, especially because officially peroxide value is a parameter that we need to keep below a certain level, in general, below 10 milliequivalents oxygen per kilogram fat. As secondary oxidation products, we usually in Kemin suggest to measure aldehydes such as hexanal and 2,4-decadenyl. But we know that especially for fish oil, there is another parameter well extended to measure the secondary oxidation output, which is the anisidine value. There are two reasons why we do not do this at our CLS, or we could do in exceptional cases, but it's because the chemicals needed for the measurement of anisidine are highly carcinogenic, and we don't want our colleagues in the laboratory to get exposed to those chemicals. And second point is that anisidine value is measured by a colorimetric method. This means that in dark oils, like for example, really red salmon oil or tuna oil, which is also almost black in some cases, could give some errors that can cause some issues understanding and evaluating the overall quality of the product. Very important is also to understand, to check the residual level of antioxidant, especially now with the natural trend, we can have tocopherol as marker, and also with the recent registration of rosemary extract as antioxidant, we should also keep track of the carnosic acid level. We will see more about that in the next webinar, where we'll explain all the different antioxidants, but we need to be below a certain level of carnosic acids in the final product in pet food, in final pet food. Rendering or other raw materials could be, as before, 100 times higher in this level. Also, synthetic antioxidants usually used in rendering and pet food are BHA, BHT, propyl gallate, and other botanical extract components, like, for example, some catechins from green tea that you know in our Verdilux products. We have also some green tea. How can we measure the shelf life? Well, usually during a real-time shelf life study or an accelerated shelf life study, for example, at 40 degrees. And we need to track all the parameters, well, not all, but at least the relevance. If we are stabilizing with synthetics, so we will track synthetics sacrificed during the shelf life, aldehydes, and not anisidine value, but always the peroxide value. And we will analyze all these parameters at regular intervals during a period of time, 6 months, 12, 18, or 24 months. And again, we always suggest maybe we can start with an accelerated shelf life study, but in parallel, we always suggest to have the real-time shelf life study and real condition room temperature running. We will see now two different examples. This example number one is a storage trial, as you can see here, until 18 months. In this case, it's dog kibbles, but it could be, for example, poultry meal, because the parameters will be the same. But important here is to analyze what is happening here. So the dark blue bars are corresponding to the peroxide value. The gray bars as corresponding to the hexanal value. Green line here is the level of BHA. The blue line here is the level of BHT, and the dotted line here stands for the maximum level of peroxide and hexanal. So this is a best case scenario. We see that the peroxide value from T0 to T18 months was far below the limit of 10 during the whole storage trial. We see also that at the beginning, the hexanal was absent, no hexanal, and of course, as the oxidation is going more advanced, some fatty acids molecule will be broken, of course, because the peroxides are decomposing, but we see hexanal in very low levels below 10 ppm. So speaking about oxidation, this sample is perfect. So what is happening with the level of antioxidant, BHA and BHT? So we see that the level of antioxidant is decreasing very slowly during the 18 months. We don't see a fast drop to zero of the antioxidant, not for the BHA, nor for the BHE. It's going very slowly. This means that all raw materials used for the production of this product were in a really good quality. And of course we will have oxidation. We cannot stop it, but in this case it's really controlled. Let's see now a different example. Example number 2. Again, here we have in blue the PB level, in purple the hexanal, and in red BHT, in green BHE. What we see here is that after 6 months, the peroxide value is above the limit and is increasing really fast, almost around 60 after 18 months. We see also that the hexanal is also increasing very fast because we have much more degraded peroxide values that will break the fatty acid molecule, and which will lead to the formation of more hexanal. So we are also with hexanal far above the limit of 10. So this product smells very rancid. But why we don't see here a fast drop of the antioxidants? Why the antioxidants seem to react really slow, like in the case before? What do you think? So maybe because the antioxidants are not in contact with the part of the product which is oxidizing, for example? We could have different situations. For example, we could have, in the production of dog kibbles or cat kibbles, we could have no antioxidants in the core and a perfect, good, stabilized fat in the coating. So my fat is perfectly stabilized with some antioxidants, in this case synthetic, but my oxidation is happening in the core of the kibble. So of course, it's very difficult for the antioxidant in the surface to control of the oxidation going on in the core, especially because all those raw materials used for the production of the core of the kibble already suffer from extrusion and drying without any antioxidant protections. So they already had a big stress before the application of the fat coating. Or could be the other way around, that we have all our antioxidant in the core of the kibble, and what is oxidizing is our fat because we don't have antioxidants there. So this is just two examples that we consider it is really interesting for you at least to see if you may have some comparable situations. That's why stabilize as soon as possible and have some stabilization at each step of the way. We should have always an equilibrium among the stabilization of the ingredients used for the production of the core of the kibble and also the fat coating. We should have antioxidants in both parts because it's very important. Antioxidants are needed in the core for protection against thermal treatments, but also in the fat coating because the fat coating is the first oxidation barrier from our kibbles, the part of the kibble that is always in contact with oxygen. So let's go now to some explanation about quick test. So what are the types of quick tests that we can have for measuring oxidation? So we call quick tests to the test that can give us results in 2-3 days maximum. And we have the OSI, which is Oxidative Stability Index, and the Rancimat, depending on which brand is producing. But the principle is the same. We will speak about the details for this OSI and Rancimat, which is only suitable for for liquid samples. And also after that, we will explain the oxygen bomb, which is more or less the same principle, but just for solid samples. So in the Rancimat OSI, we will have a high temperature between 80 and 120 degrees, sometimes even higher. It's not suitable for the shelf life estimation. It's just only for a fair estimation of the efficacy of antioxidant. We don't have, or this trial, this experiment will not give us any information about the oxidative status of a sample. And after the trial, the samples are severely deteriorated when the endpoint is reached. So let's go deeper on this method. So the principle of the OSI, remember the graphic, beginning, end of the oxidation, formation of volatiles. So once we trigger the oxidation of our lipid molecules, we have the formation of radicals, reaction with oxygen, formation of peroxides, and the composition of peroxide and formation of aldehydes. This is what the OSI will measure, the formation of peroxides. And it will measure like this. So we will have two tubes. In the first tube, we will have our oil sample or liquid sample. We will have a heating mantle, and we will bubbled oxygen. So we are putting the best conditions for oxidation, high temperature, and presence of oxygen. Once we have here a considerably advanced oxidation, volatiles like ethanol will form, and they will be transferred to the second tube. In the second tube, we have distilled water, and the conductivity of water will be measured continuously. And once we observe a differentiation, a different value of the water conductivity, the machine will stop and will give us the results in hours. Here we have an example of poultry fat at 100 degrees. And here I put you the comparison because with the OSI, we could measure up to more or less 8 samples at the same time. So for example, we can compare our poultry fat without any antioxidant, in this case in black, and the result give us 2 hours. So our sample could resist these harsh conditions during 2 hours until it was completely oxidized. The second sample is a product mix free of BHT and BHE, which considerably improved the resistance to oxidations. It gave us 16 hours. And the other sample was a typically used mix of BHA and BHT. When we put here 1000 ppm, we are speaking about 1000 ppm of the same amount of actives. Okay? So in this case, we can just tell that both antioxidant blends will improve a lot the resistance to oxidation of this poultry fat, and that the product free of BHT and BHA is much better. But we cannot give the shelf life of this poultry fat. We can tell which strategy will be better, or if we want to change from synthetic to naturals, we could measure this and check, okay, with natural I am equal good as with synthetic, or I am better, or it's not good for my poultry fat. So we can have a comparison and help us with our selection of the better antioxidant strategy for your products, for your materials. There are some calculations that you could use to extrapolate these results in hours at 100 degrees to days or months at room temperature. Yes, we could do this. We cannot take any responsibility because it's just a mathematical equation that can sometimes overestimate or subestimate the real shelf life of your product, but sometimes give us just an indication about the potential shelf life of the product. The oxygen bomb. Sorry, here we should have put oxygen bomb. In the oxygen bomb, what we are measuring, so if we go to our graphic here, we see that at the beginning of the oxidation, the peroxides are increasing because they are reacting with oxygen. Please see here this dotted red line, which is oxygen consumption. So with the oxygen bomb, we will be measure the oxygen consumption of a sample. We will be at the beginning of the oxidation. Also here, we will put the sample under really harsh conditions of pressure and temperature, and the detection is the consumption of oxygen. At the end, the sample will be really, really degraded. This is the device. It's like a pressure reactor where we can put here the solid sample, could be milk, could be kibbles. We don't need any type of preparation, it's just the 50 gram of the sample. This will be closed, it will be also heated, and also we will set the oxygen pressure at 50 C. So once we check a decrease in the oxygen pressure, we will receive this type of curves. So the faster the curve is going up, the faster will be the oxygen consumption, so the faster is the oxidation of a sample. So with this method, we cannot give indication of shelf life. We can just compare between different recipes. Imagine this could be the same recipe of kibbles, and the green line corresponds to the kibble recipe without any antioxidant, and blue and purple are corresponding for same recipe with synthetics and same recipe with naturals. So here we could clearly see that the sample without antioxidant oxidize much faster, so the shelf life will be really shorter in comparison with the other two protected samples, in which we see that the oxygen consumption is really slow. So these both samples will have for sure a better and longer shelf life of the other one. These are just comparative methods. This could help, for example, if you already have measured the real-time shelf life of one product, and you will just change, for example, one ingredient, or change from synthetic to naturals, we could do this, and we can compare to the product that you know and tell, okay, this could have a comparable shelf life, or no, this strategy didn't work as we thought, or maybe it's better, just as comparative comparative tool. What are the key takeaways of this first session? Okay, first of all, oxidation is a natural and irreversible process. We cannot stop it. We can just try to control it as soon as possible, and try to keep the quality, or keep that the oxidation speed will not be so fast. That oxidation is not only dealing with the degradation of lipid, but also with fat-soluble vitamin, pigments, protein, and other ingredients present in the product, and in overall degradation of the nutrition, that will result in an overall degradation of the nutrition properties of the final pet food. We have also learned that the more polyunsaturated fatty acids are, so the more double bonds are present in a product, the faster will be its oxidation. How can we measure oxidation? We need a multi-analysis approach, measuring different parameters to evaluate the sensitivity and the shelf life of raw materials and final products. And finally, we have seen the most popular quick analysis that estimate the resistance towards oxidation, or serve as comparative tools among samples, in between samples, but are not so reliable for the shelf life measurements. And now I give the word to my colleague, Rosana.
Thank you very much, Cristina. We ran a little bit out of time, but thank you for the in-depth explanation. I think it was really valuable, even for me. So as promised, we can tackle some questions, even if, as I said, we are a bit in delay. So let's be fast. For a complete shelf life study, is it enough to have PV value analysis only? What do you suggest?
So in general, I always suggest to check volatiles also, because I expect that in general, if we start with a low PV, that is because we are at the beginning of the oxidation. It will be very strange if we start low PV and we are really at the end, but we never know. So I always suggest to track a second parameter that could be the hexanal and the 2,4-decadienyl.
Thank you. And how do you analyze hexanal if it is volatile, and what is the critical value in feed?
Okay, hexanal will be measured by gas chromatography in a closed vessel. We put okay, we can ask Vera, our laboratory manager, to explain it better. But in a closed vessel, we will put some of the sample without any manipulation, and with a controlled temperature, check the amount of hexanal which is building up. And then we check the curves of the hexanal. And in general, you get surfaces, but with the whole database that our laboratory has for pet food and rendering materials, we can convert this in ppm. Hexanal level is not an official method for quality parameter, so there are no official limits as we have for peroxides. But according to our experience, we have seen that hexanal level above 10 ppm already can have impact in the palatability of the kibbles and already is causing perceivable rancid smell.
Thank you, Christina. Now I have another question, which is a little bit more specific about antioxidant and the application of antioxidants. So how much BHT or BHA or other antioxidant compound should we put during poultry meal production?
Wow, this is a really complicated question because it's depending a lot on the conditions of the crude raw materials, but also on the processing during the rendering. Depending on your type of rendering, the length of the tubes where the meal is passing, the temperature in which the meal is passing, and also this needs to be evaluated one-to-one for every customer. And some customers that are attending this webinar, they know that is not so easy. We can give a theoretical suggestion, but at the end we need to go to the rendering plant and together with the rendering professionals together, then make the best approach for their situation, their production conditions. It's very difficult to tell something.
Yeah, thank you. And this is why actually we have you as technical service manager to support our customer on that. Another question which is related with the anisidine value. Can we correlate the anisidine value to the levels of aldehydes if we wanted to move away from using this test?
I don't know, and I don't think it will be so easy because for that, and especially for our industry, for rendered fats and rendered meals, which suffer much stress than fats going for the human food industry, we need to build up ourselves the correlation of anisidine and formation of hexanal and other volatiles. Maybe from a scientific point of view will be possible, but practically, I don't know if we have the resources to do it. In Kemin, for the moment, we don't have this correlation.
Thank you. Other question, so I picked this one. Is there any published information on the relative effects of temperature on oxidation rates of raw material?
For sure there will be. Maybe not dedicated for rendering and pet food. There is very few, unfortunately there is very few technical information. But since I think we are tracking the question from whom they are coming, we will check in our database for some public information from peer-reviewed articles, and we will send you something that could help you on that.
Okay. So I guess we can close now, or and we can meet for the second episode of this of this webinar series. So I will thank you all for attending today's session. I hope, and we hope, Cristina, also that you found it valuable, and we look forward to seeing you for the next episode, which we remind you that is the 3rd December at 3 p.m. With the same experts. So Cristina will be here with us. It will be a deeper dive into the key molecules, mode of action, and we will also give you some tips and tools to understand which is the best strategies for you and the differences between natural and synthetic antioxidant. So if you have any further question, please do not hesitate to contact us. And so we appreciate your time here with us, and thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.